I firmly believe that I have failed at YouTube, failed at this YouTube channel, both in 2025 and throughout the past several years, really. Hello everyone, my name is Ben and welcome to another video here on ThrillNet, specifically my reflections video of 2025. Now, it's safe to say, those of you that know me will know that 2025 wasn't a great year for me. It faced me with numerous hardships. I had a job fall through, and I also faced several health issues, as did some of my family members. However, not only that, but this YouTube channel performed very, very poorly in 2025 compared to 2024, the year before. We actually saw around about just under a 50% drop in both views and similar in watch time, subscribers gains, all the metrics you could look at. I don't tend to look at my YouTube analytics too much, as I don't think that sort of stuff's great for your mental health at all. But I do look at them every now and again, especially at the end of every year or so, just out of curiosity to see how the channel is doing compared to previous months and years. And I believe a big reason for that is because more than ever this past year, the content I've been putting out has been very misaligned with, first of all, what I enjoy producing, and second of all, what I'm very good at producing and what brings value to you guys. And this video is essentially going to be addressing all of that, along with what I plan to change going forward to ensure both I'm enjoying producing content more and that the content is better and brings more value to you guys. So I think we ought to take things back to the end of last year, and when I say last year, I'm not on about 2025. Obviously this video is coming out in 2026 and is being recorded on the 2nd of January 2026 specifically. I'm on about 2024 here, and the video titled The Year That Transformed ThrillNet. Now, when I recorded that video at the end of 2024, I was on a high, because while 2024 had faced me with a couple of hardships regarding social media and overuse of that, I'd really got over that by that point, and as a result I felt like I'd really accomplished something. I was releasing quite a lot of videos on the channel at the time that were doing very, very well, so I had a lot to be proud of, really. And as a result of that, I set some very ambitious goals. Well, some were ambitious anyway. First off, I set the goal that I wanted to embrace the ThrillNet community more. That obviously being interacting with you guys, the fans, more through the YouTube community tab specifically. I also set the goal of experimentation. I wanted to introduce more content variety to the channel. Obviously I do a lot of Pleasure Beach content, but I wanted to branch out a bit more into covering more parks in the detail to which I cover Pleasure Beach, like Alton Towers and Thorpe Park and that sort of thing. Essentially because while I had a massive Pleasure Beach fan base and still continue to do so, I was quite aware that there's only so many die-hard Pleasure Beach fans, and I was really thinking about the long-term future of the channel and just branching out so it can appeal and be of benefit to more people. Further to that, there was the goal of networking, specifically with other theme park content creators and industry professionals. And the way I was going to go about achieving that was starting a talk show known as Talking Thrills that I've been talking about on the channel for several months up to that point, in which I'd essentially bring on enthusiasts and industry professionals and interview them about their roles and how they got into theme parks, etc, etc, to give you guys a lot of insight about the theme park industry. And the fourth and final goal I set was expansion of the ThrillNet platform, and I was specifically referring here to Park Buddy, which I also announced in that video, a theme park trip companion app that aims to support you with planning and conducting your theme park trips, and that I announced was going to launch in spring of 2025. With those goals in mind, I headed into January and I did do a bit more content experimentation there. Specifically, I attempted to get back into theme park gaming content. I made a video on a game called Thrillville Off the Rails, which is a theme park simulation and management game available for Steam, Xbox, I think it was on the Wii as well, DS, etc, that you may have played, some of you who grew up when I did, Gen Z, you know what I mean. It came out in sort of the mid to late 2000s. However, the video didn't do too well, so I didn't really follow up on that. And then we get to February, Now, bear in mind, I stated that I wanted to start the Talking Thrills talk show in closed season. I wanted to do the first episode with Josh from Theme Park Mads, who, as many of you all know, is a fellow content creator who appears on this channel very regularly. I also appear on his channel regularly. He's my best friend, so it was only right that he was the first person to come on. However, something came up in February regarding a job which I got an offer for a couple of months back. Now, because of this, and this isn't something I want to go into much detail about, but essentially it was going to mean that there was a possibility I might have to stop this channel or even delete the channel entirely, basically. Which put me in a big dilemma. I'd stated at the end of 2024 I wanted to do all these things, but now I was left in a space of perpetual limbo where I didn't know what to do, and I wasn't going to get an answer on what the outcome was going to be for a couple of months regarding whether I was going to be able to continue the channel or not. So I essentially had to put everything on hold, and as a result of that, I didn't end up starting the Talking Thrills podcast. I didn't commit to content experimentation. I kind of just stuck to what I knew at that point because I didn't want to promise you guys anything and then have to let you down later down the line by stopping making content. I did continue with Park Buddy because obviously that isn't related to the channel, so to speak. And as for interacting with my quote-unquote community more, I kind of abandoned that somewhere down the line as well because honestly, if I look back at the past year, I haven't stuck to that. I'm awful at replying to comments. I do apologise for that. I've been trying to integrate that into my routine. I think it's something I got a bit better at, but even so, and then just general posts on the community tab and just on my social media and stuff. I have been doing that to an extent, but they've all sort of had a common theme, as I'll get into a bit more later. But March comes along and I'm still putting out content, but not really sticking to any of what I promised at the start of the year. April comes along and the job falls through. So that's a good thing because the channel is essentially safe now. However, at the same time, I now have to continue looking for a job. So it was a bit inconvenient, but it was a bit of a weight lifted on my shoulders. And at this point, there was no reason for me not to go back to pursuing those goals, but they just completely slipped my mind at this point. So I carried on coasting along. Now, Launchpad is opening at this point. Josh is covering that on his channel extensively, and he's also getting a hell of a lot of recognition as well, which brings me on to my next point, which is that over the past few years, but especially the past couple, I've been very self-conscious deep down as a result of Josh's sort of success, because as someone who spends time with him every week at the park and obviously is paying a lot of attention to his social media because naturally I'm his best friend, I'm always rooting for him, it's hard not to notice that him, and also even his sister Danielle, because obviously she's very closely affiliated with him, even more so than me, because naturally with them being siblings, they do tend to, whatever park Josh visits, Danielle will always be with him, even when his second most affiliated with person, me, isn't there. So she tends to even get more recognition than me with regards to his channel and his fans, and I kind of get swept under the bus a bit, and it's hard not to notice that. So that's something I've always been very self-conscious of. Now, if we go back to the end of last year, one reason I set that goal of experimentation at the time was because I wanted to differentiate myself from Josh, because obviously those of you who watch his channel will know that he's even more prominent in terms of his Pleasure Beach content than me. More of the proportion of the content he puts out is Pleasure Beach related than is the case with my channel. And part of me was thinking maybe the reason I don't get as much recognition as him is because my content is very similar to the stuff he's putting out. So I just end up in his shadow, and his success, because we're so similar in terms of what we cover, is diminishing my success. People see me in his videos and just associate me with his channel, and therefore my channel doesn't get the recognition. So I was kind of thinking that if I focus on other parks more and just other types of content more, rather than the Pleasure Beach vlogs and update stuff that I've done over the past few years, then I'm more likely to gain success. However, there was another part of my mind that was conflicted with that, and thinking that I need to do a better job of the Pleasure Beach content than Josh is doing in order to get the recognition. So I should double down on the Pleasure Beach content more. And around this sort of April, May time, that part of my mind really started to possess me. So the whole experimentation goal just went out the window pretty much. Meanwhile, it's obviously spring at this point. I'm meant to be releasing Park Buddy. That's nowhere near done because I was just really over ambitious with that goal. And then as for Talking Thrills, me and Josh are visiting parks every week, so we never got round to sitting down and recording that. And then obviously the ThrillNet community stuff I mentioned previously, I've kind of abandoned that as well. So at this point, I've just completely abandoned all my goals. And I end up putting out a video towards the start of May in which I addressed an issue. Well, it was mainly with Josh's fan base, really, even though I didn't really state that or clarify that as much at the time as I could have done. There were situations coming up on Park where we were being followed around a lot by his fans. They'd come up to us to say hello, and it was just apparent that they didn't understand the concept of a friendly interaction with a YouTuber and would take the opportunity to essentially follow us around the park all day, which caused issues for me and even Danielle as well, because often these people only recognise Josh from his channel and not me, so we were feeling very isolated. And it's also the fact as well that me, Josh and Danielle are obviously a group of friends, and naturally there's certain things we want to talk about when we're on parks together or do that we don't want to make public to the world. And as soon as a fan comes up to us, we have to not necessarily be fake, but there's a certain way to interact with someone you don't know well rather than you know well, obviously. If you get what I mean, you've got to have a certain level of professionalism about you when you're a YouTuber interacting with a fan. But there was a segment in that video that was essentially a cry out to help for you guys, asking what content you want to see on this channel. I waffled on about the fact that I make similar content to Josh and that doesn't seem to work for me. He seems to get recognition for it and I don't, etc, etc. So there was still that awareness in the back of my mind about that experimentation goal I set at the start of the year, and I actually even referenced it in that video. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I've already proposed, as I said, some ideas that I discussed in detail at the start of this video and at the end of last year. But even so, after that video, it was just immediately back to try and do what Josh is doing. I just completely abandoned that idea once again. But we then progress into June, and in June I released a video stating that I was going to begin Talking Thrills in July, so that had all suddenly crossed my mind again, that I'd stated I wanted to start this talk show and I hadn't done so. And then we get to the start of July and I release a video essentially announcing that I'm beginning an upload schedule, a weekly upload schedule of Tuesday at 5 PM. That is when I'm going to upload a video every week. And I essentially reference in that video that over the past few years I've been very inconsistent with when I've been uploading, but back in 2020 I had an upload schedule when we were in lockdown, and it worked quite well. I was uploading twice a week then. This upload schedule, to cut a long story short, just didn't end up working out, and I was posting community posts on social media and the community tab near enough every week, essentially apologising that the video I was meant to release on the Tuesday was going to be delayed until later in the week. And yeah, essentially it just didn't work out. If anything, I uploaded less after I announced that upload schedule than before, and I think a big reason for that was because of what happened at the end of August / start of September. Now, I stated in a video I released a few months ago that I was going to give a full-blown account of what happened in terms of that. However, looking back, the nitty-gritty details of it aren't really relevant to this video, so all you really need to know is that I had some health issues. Specifically, I had severe anemia. Very, very dangerous anemia, actually. For those who aren't aware, I'm not going to go all into this, but I have chronic kidney disease. I had a kidney transplant many years ago, but obviously chronic kidney disease, the key there is chronic. Even after transplant, you still have the condition, your kidney function still deteriorates over time, so I've had blood tests every month to 2 months sort of time just to check how I'm getting on, because the chances are, well, not the chances are, I will need another kidney transplant in the future, so we need to keep an eye on kidney function. But in addition to this, they do a bunch of other tests of things that the kidney function can affect. One of those is hemoglobin, because the kidneys produce a hormone that regulates that. And for those who aren't aware, haemoglobin is basically a substance in red blood cells which carry oxygen around the body to your organs. And I had a dangerously level of haemoglobin. It was discovered due to what eventually was ruled down to some changes that were made to my medication that unfortunately my body just didn't tolerate. But because of that, I had to be admitted to hospital, and I wasn't allowed to do any rides, visit any parks for a good month. And that's because when you have a low haemoglobin, your heart has to work harder, it has to beat faster to get oxygen around your body to your organs. And when you're going on rides, that sort of thing, it can put more strain on your heart. Now, because obviously mine's working harder, you don't really want to be putting any extra strain on that, because that can lead to more complications later down the line. So I was told to take it easy, and it was a very scary time. I'm not going to go into too much details, but they were kind of telling me about all these risks if I didn't get treatment and didn't go into hospital before I got admitted, and they were talking about the potential for strokes or a heart attack to happen, or other heart issues. That sort. I genuinely not exaggerating when I say that I could have died if this wasn't found. It was a very, very messy situation, really, and there was part of me that was thinking, like, this could be over, like, this theme park hobby that I love, this YouTube channel, visiting parks, genuinely could be over. And so I was feeling very sorry for myself throughout September, really. I didn't really know what to do with myself, even though I could still film sit-down videos at home. Like, part of me didn't want to, because I was still in the recovery stages of this whole thing. I didn't know how long it was going to take. I didn't know whether there'd be any complications that would have been caused by it that would have meant that I couldn't do rides anymore. So I kind of just abandoned all my goals entirely, and naturally I went back to doom scrolling social media, content consumption, just a lot of bad habits, playing a lot of like video games, that sort of thing, which, we talked about social media all in last year's video, so I don't need to go into detail about that again. But if you're not focused on your goals, that's when you're susceptible to doom scrolling, which, I've obviously talked about in last year, but it's very bad for your mental health. However, the positive was, in this month, that I actually managed to secure a job. So I was somewhat occupied with the interview process for this. I had to do a technical assessment, and then I actually got the job, which has started in October. And I noticed that this process of doing a technical assessment, the interview, just keeping busy with something that was a goal of mine that I didn't announce on the channel because it's not related, but obviously a massive goal of mine has been to get into a career in software engineering. This isn't a long-term role, it's only an internship for 9 months, but it's still progress. I noticed that this caused me to feel very fulfilled. It caused my mental health to improve significantly, even in this time of hardship. And I came to the realisation that I'd kind of had already some awareness of, but this kind of reiterated the fact that if you're focused on your goals and things you enjoy, you forget about the hardships you're going through, and it's the best way to tackle them at the end of the day, is to just focus on something that's fulfilling, meaning for you, bringing benefit to the world. And which kind of made me think, I really need to get back to YouTube regardless. Now, luckily, I was getting to the point where I was well enough to visit parks again anyway at this time, but it really was this situation with the job and that making me feel more fulfilled that I got my ambition back for YouTube and decided I need to go all in with this again. And, I'd taken a month off YouTube at this point, so that is when I decided, why don't I look back at the content I produced, this year so far, to figure out where to go with things next. And I took a look at the content and just thought, what the hell? Like, I'm not proud of any of this content. Like, what even is this? Most of it's just news updates, the odd park update from Pleasure Beach vlogs. And I just looked at it and was like, I'm not proud of this content. Like, I don't even remember I produced half this content. Like, you know what? It didn't actually fulfill me producing this content this much. And to be honest, I was kind of just focusing on what Josh was doing the whole time and imitating that. I didn't stick to my goal of experimentation at all. Not to mention, my channel had done worse this year than in 2024, when, don't get me wrong, I'd used the same concepts in terms of content. However, there was a couple of videos in 2024, one in particular, the most popular video on the channel that really popped off, the one where I spoke about whether Pleasure Beach would be able to beat the High record, because obviously Hyperia took it in May last year. That video I really enjoyed making, and it clearly brought a lot of value, entertainment to people. And those of you who watch Theme Park Mad will know that there's not many sit-down videos on there at all. He mainly just does the park update and vlog content from Pleasure Beach. And that's something that he's very good at. He's very good at picking up specific details. For example, in terms of the Launchpad updates and Evictus updates, he's done specific changes. And me being visually impaired, for those who aren't aware, I have reduced vision, which can make that sort of content more difficult for me to do. That's something I'm not as good at doing, and something as a result I find somewhat less fulfilling to produce. So one day, sort of towards the end of the season, I just sat down and had a think about what content do I really enjoy producing, and what content does well for me. And so I had a look at the most popular videos on the channel, naturally, and a lot of those are more speculation oriented videos, just deep dives into parks, informative videos, rather than this short shelf life, I'm going to call it, more news and update based content that Josh tends to do and is known for and does a very good job of. And so it became pretty clear to me that that is the content that you guys value. And when I think about the content I enjoy most producing, yeah, it is that content. Many of you that know me personally will know that I'm a very jokey, comedic person, and I like to integrate that into my videos, but I don't necessarily have time to do that when I'm making news updates, because, you know, they're all about, you've got to be one of the first to get a news update out, otherwise it just becomes very irrelevant very quickly. The videos don't tend to do too well. They have a short shelf life, as I've already referenced. Or the park and vlog update stuff, because you're just saying things on the spot, then sometimes funny things will come out. But for example, when you're doing a sit down video, like a speculation video or a review video, you have the opportunity to plan an outline for that, script it, and I enjoy that process. It allows me to really think through how I can portray that information in the most engaging way possible and introduce those jokey segments in. It allows me to be more experimental with the editing side of things, because I do really enjoy just video editing in general for YouTube, but you can't do that to the same extent with a news update or a vlog. It's just much more difficult, especially with a news update that, as I said, you want to get out as quickly as possible, which applies to vlogs and park updates as well to some extent. So the content that works for Josh just doesn't necessarily work for me, but I've just been so self-conscious of his success and just the recognition he gets, and as I said, it's just so hard not to get distracted by that when you're with him every week and you see the fans flooding up to him and all the validation on social media, these bloody tag your 5 favourite theme park accounts that people have been doing recently. It's gotten to a point where I've got rid of not only Twitter but Instagram on my phone. I did actually re-download Twitter at the end of last year, and I talked about that in the Reflections video, despite all the issues I'd had with it, because I got my social media usage under control at that point. But I ended up just deleting it mid-year because I was just sick of that element of comparison that social media forces you into, and that sort of spread into Instagram as well, as Josh has just got more and more recognition. And as I said before, I don't want to see him doing bad. I'm all for supporting him, he's my best mate, but the fact of the matter is that we're both on the same goal here with content, and I want to be getting that recognition as well that he's getting, because let's face it, like, anyone who tells you they don't want to get views on YouTube or they don't care about views is like a flat out liar. Like, why would you be publishing this content publicly online if you didn't want people to see it? I do want my content to get views. Like, I want to bring value to people. It just feels like I'm not doing that to the same extent Josh is doing it. And I flip-flopped my mind over the past year over what I want to do, how I want to address that. But I've kind of come to the conclusion now that, like, if I'm not proud of the content I'm producing, if I'm not proud of doing what Josh is doing, then why do that? What is the point of getting views or trying to get views, chasing views on content when the content you're producing in order to get that isn't fulfilling you? Would you really be happy if you had 1 million subscribers? Let's say that, I know in my case that my channel's done worse this year, so this isn't necessarily correlating to me necessarily, but would you really be happy if you had 1 million subscribers, all that materialistic success, if what you'd done to get there wasn't fulfilling you? I don't think so. Like, what's the point, numbers? You need to be asking yourself, if you are a YouTuber or content creator or whatever it may be, why the numbers, why the money, why the followers, why the subscribers? And like, I did a bit of journaling about it, just wrote about it a little bit. I definitely recommend, like, if something's on your mind, just writing it down, or even talking to a camera like I'm doing now. It really helps. It's really empowering to put thoughts into words, because thoughts are abstract, whereas words are tangible. Words have a meaning. We can understand words. So it's definitely what I recommend. But I just came to the conclusion through that process, the process of which I'm obviously continuing now by making this video, that, like, there's no point in materialistic success if it isn't bringing you fulfillment. So even though we might want the views, the clout, chasing that or doing what we think is best to get that isn't necessarily always the answer. I'm definitely going to be not staying away from social media altogether. I'm still going to obviously be posting on it. Like, I'm a bloody content creator for YouTube. I'm still going to have my Instagram and stuff. Twitter, I'll probably leave behind, but I will still be posting on Instagram. But I'm not going to have it on my phone, because at the end of the day, if you have it on your phone, the icon's always there. You have a habit of unlocking your phone all the time. It's just natural in this modern world, because, you know, you might get a text or something else, but then you get sidetracked with social media because you see that icon, you get that dopamine hit, and you want to click it, don't you? And then before you know it, you're flicking through stories, you eventually stumble across Josh's story, you discover that he's been tagged in several of these tag your favourite theme park account things. Meanwhile, you've been tagged in absolutely none of them, and you feel awful. You can't help but compare yourself to other people. But on my computer, I'll be going on there when I have a reason to go on there, for example, to post a story or whatever it may be. And as I said, this is something that I've had an awareness of for around about a year now, but I've come to ignore it. And I think that's because, you know, I haven't documented it properly, but having gone through that process now, having come to the realisation again following what happened back in September, proved to me, right, I need to take some action on this. I'm not proud of the content I produced this year. Having documented it now, if this was to ever crop up again, because let's face it, even though, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, I can control my social media usage, but I'm still gonna visit parks with Josh because he's my best friend, obviously. But, you know, even when he's getting all the love or whatever, and it causes me to feel a bit down about what I've achieved with YouTube, I can come back to this video now and rewatch it again to just remind myself of what running a YouTube channel should be all about. And the sad part of all of this as well is that you look at Park Buddy and Talking Thrills, part of the reason I've not met my goals with those things, yes, the Park Buddy one was ambitious, but I've been sacrificing time on those things that mean a lot to me, because I genuinely am really excited to start Talking Thrills. Like, the thought of being able to network more with other enthusiast content creators, industry professionals who I see eye to eye with, not that I've randomly stumbled across on Twitter. More about that in last year's video and the various videos I've done on how the theme park community is toxic, but networking's really powerful. Often it's not what you know, it's who you know. That's a common saying in the corporate world in terms of jobs and stuff, and I'm sure it's true for content as well. I'm sure, you know, you make the right connections, you get the right opportunities. I mean, you look at, for example, the stuff Josh has done with Pleasure Beach Shopping. I mean, go and check out his channel, obviously, to see all of that. And that's a result of him becoming good friends with Ben, the roller coaster, formerly known as. because he's a massive fan of Valhalla, and obviously Josh did his Valhalla updates back in the day, so Ben was obviously naturally interested in those. But look where that's taken him. I'm pretty sure that's also how he got his press invite to the Curse of Bermuda Falls as well, because Ben was working for that event too. Like, Josh has approached YouTube in the right way, always. He's never chased the views. He's chased what he enjoys, and you know, you'll ask him and he'll say this as well. He does the content he does because he enjoys it. He enjoys doing the construction update stuff, which is fair enough. He just enjoys it for the memories, the whole vlogging side of things, and it's ended up working out for him because he's naturally good at the construction update stuff. He's never chased it for views, although I genuinely don't believe he has. You can just tell. You can tell when someone's really into something. If you look at some of my news updates and some of the other stuff I've done that isn't necessarily exactly aligned with what I find most fulfilling to do with YouTube, you can just tell that I'm not always into it. I often sound quite robotic in the news updates. I'm not getting across my funny side that I'd like to get across on the platform. I genuinely look back at some of my news updates and just cringe. Welcome back to ThrillNet, and yet again another news update. It feels like this is the only kind of content I'm doing at the moment. I can just tell from watching them back that I've made them because I feel like I have to, because I want the views. But why? Why the views when it's not what's authentic to me? And yeah, it's sad. I wanted to do Talking Thrills this year. I didn't do it because I was too busy chasing stuff, but I thought would get me that instant gratification, those instant views. And even if the content you're putting out doesn't necessarily get you the instant views, it's about growing an audience over time. People need to, come to your channel and then like you for you. It's deeper than just that surface level, producing what people want for that time. People need to grow love for you as well. And, you need to be good at what you're doing, because even if, you do a video about what's hot right now, like a news update or whatever, a construction update, people might click on it, and sure, those vanity metrics, the views will go up because people clicked on it. But if they don't like you for you, if you haven't done a very good job at the video, if the video's not going to be very good, they're not going to come back for more when you upload your next video. And I firmly believe that that's why, while some of my videos have done quite well this year, there's been a couple, like some of the Launchpad stuff when it opened. Of course, people wanted to know all about Launchpad at the time and see that, but if those videos aren't your best work, they're not gonna. People aren't gonna come back. And I firmly believe that that's why the channel has taken a downward turn this year, because I've just doubled down on the wrong type of content. But it's just really demoralising when your best mate is constantly getting all this validation and just glazed all the time that he's doing a really good job, and you don't really get much recognition. And then, like, even when people come up to me who do recognise the channel, and like, I'm very grateful to those people, but like, there's times when they'll come up to us and they'll be really confusing, because they'll acknowledge Josh first and go on about his channel, and then after they've waffled on about his channel for 2 minutes, they'll suddenly say, oh yeah, I watch you as well. And it's a bit like, okay, so I'm a second-class content creator then. Another really sad thing as well is that not only have I recognised that Josh has been getting more recognition than me from just general fans, this also seems to have translated into our wider friendship group as well. There was a period earlier this year, around about May time, I want to say, May, June-ish, where Josh went through this weird phase of calling me Happy Harry and just making me out to be this really negative, arrogant person. I've no idea why he was doing this, but there was just a notable phase on the channel where he'd constantly refer to me as being negative.
One attraction that Happy Harry genuinely loves at Alton Towers is Nemesis Sub Terra. Incredible.
Don't get me wrong, there's times when I probably have been, and not always intentionally, because with me being visually impaired, I don't even always know that Josh is filming, and he always uses the excuse of, well, surely you can tell from the way I'm speaking. But honestly, it's not always as obvious as you think. He doesn't always tell me before he starts filming. There was an instant actually in the Drayton Manor vlog where I asked him to cut something out because I said something and I didn't realise he was filming, and he's always fine with that, and he did cut it out, or I assume he'll cut it out anyway, because he asked me about it afterwards and stuff. But often you'll get that sort of thing happen because, let's face it, when you are filming for a vlog, I know I certainly do this, you don't necessarily always be fake, but you have a certain level of professionalism about you where, you know, you have to have some sort of filter, I guess, because, you know, the stuff you're saying with your friends, and I've already talked about this in the following around segment I did earlier, but, you know, the conversations you have with your friends aren't always going to be the sorts of conversations you want to be revealing to the entire internet. But unfortunately, obviously, viewers of the channel are just going to take the content that Josh puts up at face value, and so I definitely feel like the perception of me is overly negative amongst his fans, and I just get this overall impression from some stuff that's said in the comments and stuff, and there's various incidents that have happened over the year and just in the past that have contributed to this.
Happy days, and then we'll be, yeah, Ben's probably stressing, but yeah. Get in.
No, I'm not.
You're not coming on the back with us?
No, I want to leave.
And as I said, this also seems to have got across into the wider friendship group as well, where I often get comments made to me, not necessarily by Josh and Danielle, but some other people, about how negative I can be at sometimes, and it's very overblown. I know it used to be quite a ranty, rage-based channel. I've talked about that in reflections videos I've done over the past couple of years, so I don't need to go into that again. This is the worst UK theme park management and marketing disaster there's ever been. But I feel like I've definitely moved away from that now. I can tell you for a fact, I don't regret anything I've posted in terms of being overly negative to this channel or social media for like 12 months now. So I've no idea where this is coming from, but it feels very overblown and unfair towards me, an unfair perception. And sure, I'll continue to ask myself why that may be. I've no idea. Maybe people just don't like me. I'm obviously not going to be everyone's cup of tea because nobody is everyone's cup of tea. But yeah, it's also it makes me very self-conscious, the fact that Josh's fan base, which, let's face it, is a large portion of Pleasure Beach fans, none of whom acknowledge me when I'm on park. They only acknowledge Josh when they see us. They recognise us. It feels like they don't like me, which is very sad considering Pleasure Beach is my home park, and just adds more complexity and just demoralisation of me in terms of a content creator and how I feel about all that. So this whole situation, I don't really know a direct solution to it, but I think the answer is just to focus on what I enjoy doing and what brings value to you guys. That makes the most logical sense to me, and I've already discussed the reasons why that makes the most logical sense. But that's what I'm going to be doing going into 2026. There's going to be a lot more evergreen videos, I'm going to call them, because that's the type of content I'm referring to as a collective that I believe I'm best at creating, and that I believe you guys seem to enjoy the most because it does the best on my channel. As I said, if you're looking at the most popular videos, obviously I started Pleasure Beach Roundup towards the end of this season, and the reason I did that was, yes, that is a new series, but with it being a monthly series, it has a longer shelf life, and it also combats some of the issues I mentioned previously about me struggling to do park update videos due to being visually impaired, because often when we're filming park updates, me and Josh together, he'll spot things that I don't even spot, and I'll end up missing it in my video because I haven't spotted it, and I won't be aware it's happened until he releases his video, and then I'll just forget to mention it naturally. Next time when I go on park, it just doesn't come up again because Josh has already covered it. Whereas these monthly Pleasure Beach news videos are a great place to cover that sort of stuff. They seem to have gone down very well so far with you guys. They've done not exceptionally well numbers wise. I mean, I'm not going to pay as much attention to numbers going forward, as I said, but they're not done exceptionally well, but the people who watch them seem to enjoy them. I always know a video's done well when, like, Josh or Danielle will message me something about it that they found funny, and that has happened with both those videos, because yeah, another benefit with it being a monthly format series is I have that time to plan. I know when I'm going to release each video. I have that time to create a plan, introduce funny elements into them, funny edits.
Nothing beats an Invictus holiday, and right now you can be one of the first to ride this colossal gyro swing for just £50 per person. That's £200 for a family of 4.
So, while they might not be as up to date as if I did separate news videos, which I will still do by the way, obviously if Invictus starts testing tomorrow, I'm not just going to ignore it and wait a month to make a video about it. But there was often stuff before where I'd be debating whether or not to make a news video, and then I'd decide to make one and it'd just derail what I had planned content-wise completely. I might have a more evergreen video planned, and it'd just end up getting thrown in the trash because I'd make this news video instead spontaneously and just forget about it. Pleasure Beach Roundup helps combat that to some degree, because now it takes a lot of the pressure off in terms of Pleasure Beach news. I only feel like I need to make dedicated news updates now, or park update videos when something really, really big happens. Not just when some bolts have arrived for Invictus or whatever it may be. I'll talk about my content strategy more for Pleasure Beach in an upcoming Pleasure Beach Roundup video, which will come out around about next week probably. But I aim to do one vlog a month still, because, you know, I do enjoy doing the vlogs because they capture great memories of me, Josh and Danielle hanging about on park. I just don't think they're an ideal thing to rely on in terms of informative content. And as I stated in my 2024 reflections video last year as well, I am going to look to do more experimentation as a result of cutting down on this content that isn't fulfilling to me. More videos surrounding other parks, more just evergreen videos, as I've said, experimentation, deep dives into parks, reviews, speculation, you name it. Maybe even Planet Coaster or something to make a comeback if I have the time. And then Talking Thrills as well. Now I'm much more focused, much more aware of my content strategy. That'll hopefully make a comeback very soon. I say a comeback, I mean a start. I've over time had people asking me about it. I had someone ask the other day during the premiere of the 2025 highlights video. It is still on the cards, guys. I just need to find a time to sit down with Josh and record, hopefully during the close season before the parks reopen again. And then hopefully once I've done that initial video with Josh, the ball will be rolling then, and we'll be getting other guests on once a month. I look to do that series still once a month. As I said before, maybe twice a month, we'll see, but I think once a month to start off with would work better. And then Park Buddy as well, I'll be working on that in the background too, and then interacting more with the ThrillNet community is definitely something I want to look to do more, just replying to comments more, paying more attention to what you guys want to see on the channel. Obviously be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I do have some other goals for 2026 I'd like to achieve in terms of YouTube, but I've certainly learned over the past year you shouldn't tell people your goals. I think it was a big mistake doing that, especially in terms of Park Buddy, which was a really ambitious one. Like, I was way too open in that reflections video last year, I will admit, in terms of that. I should never have said things like, Park Buddy, I aim to release in spring. That was just my ego getting ahead of me. There was no way I was going to have that ready for then. It's still nowhere near ready now, but as I said, stay tuned for that one. But I just let you down so much in the past year, giving you all these promises and not adhering to them. So I'm definitely learning. I'm going to be less open with my goals going forward for that reason, because, you know, you have had this expectation for me because of that one video, if you watched it, for me to go out and achieve that stuff. And I totally get if, as a result of my promises that weren't met, that you've lost some level of trust in me. But hopefully 2026 we can turn all of that around, and it's going to be a better year for the channel, and I'm going to enjoy making content more, and as a result I'm going to release more content more often. I'm still going to try and keep it to one video a week. I've set a schedule for myself, but I'm not going to reveal that. As I said, I'm not disclosing my goals going forward, because I mean, as you know, the schedule as well, I didn't stick to that at all, that I proposed back in July throughout summer, that ultimately ended up getting ditched because obviously I went into hospital and took that break. So I think the past year has two main lessons really. First of all, when you are faced with a hardship, in my case obviously going into hospital and all the health issues, honestly the best way to take your mind off that is to just focus on your goals, such as the ones I set with YouTube. Sure, I couldn't go to parks and ride rides, but I still could have spent time here making sit-down videos, you know, following what I proposed regarding experimentation, starting talking frills. September would have been the perfect time to start that, but no, obviously didn't do that. Instead, I spent a lot of time just at home, you know, feeling sorry for myself, consuming content, which, you know, it does provide some instant dopamine, but at the end of the day, you're not achieving anything by doing that. You're not bringing value to anyone. And yeah, because of that, you know, after you're finished doing what you're doing, you just go back to feeling awful again, which that just doesn't happen with when you're working towards goals. You feel like you've accomplished something afterwards. And obviously, second of all, in relation to that, in my case, when you're making content, be that for YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it may be, instead of chasing views all the time, you need to focus on building an audience based off what you can bring to those people, what value you can bring in terms of the type of content you make, while also focusing on what's fulfilling for you. And so this is why I believe I failed at YouTube over the past few years. I've focused far too much on what my competitors are doing rather than what's authentic to me. Hopefully I can edit this video into something cohesive. Obviously it's not been done with a script or outline or anything because I just wanted to speak freely, but that is about everything I have to say. To check out some highlights, some happier moments of the past year, click the video on the right side of your screen, click the icon on the left side of your screen to subscribe to ThrillNet for more things theme park related in the UK and beyond. I'm Ben, you've been watching ThrillNet, and I'll catch you again soon.